With his hands still slick with blood, an irate Brian tears through the street, vaulting over a fence and landing hard on the other side, and as a lone balloon drifts past like it's got somewhere better to be, he heads into an abandoned stretch where the distant screech of tires and the sharp crack of gunfire between two warring crews tells him exactly where to go. The rivals are blasting at each other from arm's length, and when both men in one car take the hits, the vehicle plows into a fire hydrant, flips and lands in a steaming heap. The furious man pounces on the SUV, smashing its windshield with his weapon, which is enough to make the gunman bail and come after it, spraying rounds as he runs and ducks to keep his head attached. He sidesteps an oncoming forklift by inches, but the fork keeps going, punching straight through the SUV's glass and skewering the driver while his partner comes out alive. That partner promptly shoots the fleeing man in the back in the throat, dropping him in the street, yet he's hauled off to the hospital in record time and wheeled into surgery while Saya sobs in the lobby. After Detective Dennis leaves his card at the ward, the man eventually wakes up and begins rehabilitation, only to learn he's lost his ability to speak. And when he's handed an electrolarynx, he tries it but angrily throws it aside, while his wife hugs him for comfort. The man is discharged, and as they drive home, he spots a guy playing with a kid in the park. A child smartly handing something to an older man, and an inscription about the police, which makes him visibly angry and prompts him to rip his necklace from his neck. Once they arrive, she leans over and plants a kiss on his cheek before they get out of the car. His past flashes before him, coming home to the warm embrace of his son, lifting him up, then falling to the ground playfully as they roll through the grass. Inside, he notices the Christmas trees and breaks down crying while the woman hugs him to comfort him. He heads for a shelf and angrily drags items down with her watching helplessly. He finds a newspaper reporting that a gang fight claimed the life of a boy, and his rage intensifies, making him tear the paper apart. Seeing what he's become, the wife bursts into tears, but he simply walks away. The next morning, with Brian withdrawn and sipping from a glass, Saya resorts to texting him as a way of communicating, asking for her keys while he replies with a single word. With his wife away at work, he goes into his kid's room and clutches the bed sheets, and as he lies on them, he imagines holding his boy in his arms. He steps out into the yard, and while sitting on a chair, he stares off into space and recalls the day his child ran to him, dragging him to the turf to help with his bicycle that had a balloon tied to it. And when he did, Saya filmed them with a smile on her face. The gang members were chasing each other while shooting. Right by Brian's yard, a bullet struck his son even as they ducked for cover. Once the gang was gone, the couple cried in agony as they had just lost their boy. The scream from that day jolts him back to reality, leaving him almost visibly shaken. He heads to his solitude space and starts putting away the drinks he's been drowning himself in, then pulls the dusty sheet off a shelf and takes out his boy's bicycle, staring at it for a long moment before brushing the dust away. After she waits in the car for a long time, she comes inside, and of course, he's still tormenting himself over the boy's death. She texts him to reassure him that she misses their son too, but with her watching, he simply reads the message, tosses the phone aside, and goes back to handling the bicycle, unable to take it anymore. She reaches for Detective Dennis's card. It's Brian, who ends up visiting the detective, and while he waits for the man, a large board showing Las Palomas' most wanted men catches his attention. He pulls out his phone to capture the list, and in the middle of snapping away, he spots the face of the man who shot him. As the detective nears his office, he catches sight of the scorned visitor walking off without a word. Back home, the gang leader's photo is now printed and pinned to his board alongside other suspects from the crew and a drone shot of a certain location. He marks a date on his calendar for when he plans to strike one of them, sets his pendulum swinging like a slow countdown, then starts exercising to get himself back in shape. He watches videos on how to use a blade in a fist fight and walk away the winner, then takes the moves to a dummy, hitting it again and again. As he keeps at it, Saya watches from a distance, shaking her head in sadness, yet he ignores her entirely, powering through sit-ups and kettlebell lifts, working through the pain. He buys an abandoned Lamborghini and begins rebuilding it to his own liking, welding rails around the frame and tucking small compartments into the doors. Watching this unfold, Saya can't hold back her tears any longer. Soon he's at a shooting range, honing his aim with the help of the guy, then leaving with a pump-action shotgun. While mastering it, he listens in on police dispatch calls, sending units to crime scenes where shootings have just gone down. Later that day, after a long hug from his crying wife, she packs her things and leaves the house, while he just watches, without making any move to stop her or showing any sign of remorse. He steps into his practice space and goes at a human dummy, putting everything he's learned into each move and stabbing it in the face, then heads out to work on his driving, spending the day running back and forth on a tarred turf while trying to drift, though he still can't get the result he's after. Months later, he takes up a vantage spot and begins monitoring the bad guys through a camera, snapping pictures and keeping track of their movements. And he's now more driven than ever to stay in shape, exercising without pain this time and letting the images of the gang members push him to go harder. Back at the tarred turf, he works on his speed driving again, drifting cleanly around a caravan and safety cones without hitting them like before, and a smile spreads across his face after a flawless run as he heads for the shooting range to keep sharpening his skills. At a mall entrance, he spots a little boy and instantly sees his late son in him, a wave of emotion rising as he hugs the child tightly, almost to the point of tears. But the boy's mother comes over and takes her child away from the stranger. As he walks off, he gets a text from Zaya asking how he's been, but he ignores it. Standing by his car, he catches sight of some gang members, but it's the appearance of the gang leader, the one who shot him, that truly stirs his anger. The man is surrounded by kids laughing and playing with them, and the sight makes Brian pull out his dagger, ready to strike, but he rethinks it and slides the weapon back into place as he watches his enemy climb into his car. While he's looking, a gang member and the boss's girl bump into him, and the guy floors Brian without a second thought. The boss's girl cracks open a can and dumps it all over him like he's yesterday's trash, then strolls off to meet the boss. Back home, he works out his frustration on the dummy, shanking it over and over and laying into it with punches. Before whipping a knife at the gang leader's mugshot on the wall, he slips into a house through the window, finds one of his targets, and smacks him in the face with his weapon, sending the guy crashing into the glass railings and flopping to the floor half out cold. Back at his place, the target is trussed up, gagged, and hanging off the floor. The mute man walks in wearing a welding mask, and with the target already sweating bullets, he cracks him with a headbutt, cuts the rope, and lets him hit the deck. He shoves the guy toward a table, and as the man clocks the wall plastered with gang photos, he's told to write down their operations. His first no earns him a quick tune-up before he's given another shot. With the knife buried in the table, the tied-up man plays it cute, whipping the papers into his captor's face, cutting himself free, and then cracking him again to send him reeling. He grabs the knife, rushes him, and after a short scrap, sticks him in the thigh. He tries to go in for the finish, but the man shoves him back with a clean shot to the face. The furious man snags his opponent's legs, and even with him hopping on one foot, he chucks a crate into him and plants him. As they scramble up, the late boy's father drives a screwdriver into him, ripping a scream out of him. The gang member tries to bolt, but the man slams into him and drops him in the laundry rig. He pins the man to the floor and tries driving the screwdriver into it, but the enemy fights back, using the washing machine like it's both a shield and a battering ram until the gang member gains the upper hand, grabbing him from behind and locking his neck in a chokehold. The scorned man twists out and slams an elbow into his opponent to break free, then rams him into the wall before flinging him aside. The gang member snatches up a weapon to keep the fight going, but it's smacked from his hand and he's met with a barrage of heavy punches to the face and body until he's sent crashing onto the table, lying there out cold as his limping attacker drops into a chair, catching his breath. When the date circled on his revenge calendar finally arrives, he suits up, strapping on a bulletproof vest and clipping ammunition to it. He scribbles something on a sheet of paper, then steps into his boy's room, picking up his child's music toy for a brief moment before heading out. Driving past his wife's apartment, he spots her painting from a distance, and the sight shatters him, leaving him in tears. Still limping slightly, he carries a wrapped gift to his child's grave and quietly pays his respects before moving on. Meanwhile, Detective Dennis is at home when something feels off, and after arming himself, he finds the same gang member Brian had just flattened, lying unconscious in his sitting room, along with an envelope. Once his colleagues haul the man away, the detective opens it to find a Christmas card, where Brian tells him he's about to finish what Dennis should have done. Inside is a flash drive, and when he loads it, he finds photos, profiles, and locations tied to the gang, along with detailed notes on exactly how they operate. He's driving around tuning into police dispatch signals about crime scenes when he spots a girl getting roughed up and her stuff stolen, but he just drives past. The thieves swagger away with their loot, but the angry man circles back, uses his car to pin them against a wall, and in pain he stabs one of them. The bad guy climbs on top of his car, and the crusader drifts across the street with him riding shotgun on the roof, then slams the brakes when the thug pulls a gun through the window. The driver grabs the weapon and fires, sending the man sliding down the windshield in a mess of blood. The killer can't stomach the sight and promptly pukes. He cruises by the gang's headquarters and tosses severed fingers of their member into the yard. When the leader gets hold of the grisly trophies, he flies off the handle and sparks a gang war somewhere else in town. The shootouts get messy, with stray bullets catching a few cops in the crossfire. Brian rolls into the chaos in his car, taking out a couple of gang members as he goes, but one of them secretly records him drifting through the scene. The boss watches the live feed of the man tearing through his turf while Brian keeps shooting his way through, taking out targets. He spots a wounded cop and stops to let her jump in, but she's hit from behind, and all their efforts to save her fail. The officer doesn't make it. As he's about to leave, he spots the guy who's been streaming the live feed to the boss and hits him with the car, sending him flying and landing hard. The dude crawls to grab his phone, but the angry man steps on his fingers, flips the live feed back onto the gang member, and while the boss watches, he takes a shot and then peels off. The boss sends the video to his hitman, who's busy taking care of an opponent, and just as he slashes the guy with a machete, the crusader deliberately drives by, locking eyes with the hitman like a warning shot. On his way out, he pauses to stroke his kid's toy before hitting the road, but an SUV slams into him from behind. He crashes, though the damage is light, so he guns it and speeds off with the bad guys hot on his tail. At a narrow street lane, he runs right into the gang members and opens fire. Using one of his slick drifting moves, he swerves beside the SUV, takes a shot that drops a member, then guns it again. The SUV rolls closer, and as the passenger fires, they try to trap him in a corner, but he slips out while shooting back, causing the biker tailing him to wipe out. He barrels into a one-lane street and gets boxed in by a car and 3 guys, but he starts blasting at them. As they dug for cover, he rams the truck, blocking the way, trying to shove it out with his car. The SUV catches up, opens fire, and crashes into him, forcing the truck to budge. Only after the Brian nails the shooter hanging off the back of the truck, the chase keeps going until the SUV accidentally crashes head-on into a van. The man on a mission drives off, but the biker stays glued to his tail, shooting while closing in. The biker leans over to shoot through the window, but the man grabs his hand, wrestling to throw off the shots, then knocks him clean off the bike. As the biker clings to the car door, barely hanging on, the driver sideswipes a roadside pillar, smashing the biker into it. The hitman struggles to crawl out of his flipped car, injured and bleeding. Nearby, Detective Dennis listens to police reports over the radio while going through the files the crusader handed him. Back at headquarters, the boss finds his sleeping girlfriend and wakes her with an Meanwhile, the man takes a breather to regroup, then picks up a phone recovered from one of the men he took down. He scrolls through messages from the boss calling everyone to the base. Fired up for more action, he flips his coat over his shoulder, hops on a bike, and rides off. The gang's convoy barrels toward the building just as the overhead sliding door starts to close. But the biker guns it and crashes inside right before it locks. He ducks for cover and starts blasting men from a distance, dropping 2 dead on the spot. While the others scramble to regroup, he reaches into his ammo bag, pulls out his pump action, and takes aim at his bike with the leaking gas tank. A shot lights it up, and the fire jumps to the gang's car, causing a fiery explosion. Even as some wounded guys try shooting back, he finishes them off with cold precision before heading upstairs. Meanwhile, the boss and his girlfriend are dancing to some tunes, unaware of the chaos below. His men come down the stairs to take out the attacker, but as they get close, he opens fire, blasting brains all over the stairwell as their lifeless bodies tumble down. 2 others close in. After shooting the second, he throws fists before sending the first crashing down the stairs. The next wave gets blown away trying to push through the door, and the 3rd guy faces off with it but gets overpowered and stabbed in the chest before the man finishes him off properly. Another is shot and used as a human shield until Brian takes out the rest. The last guy gets lucky when Brian's gun runs dry, forcing a hand-to-hand brawl, but the man on a mission still has the upper hand and sends his opponent flying down to the ground floor. The man gets shot, but the bullet smacks his vest, and even though it knocks him down, he fires back and takes out the shooters. Up on the top floor, he rigs a wire bomb across the hallway before heading to the boss's pack. The shooter from the SUV catches up and slams him into a bar. The guy tries to throw punches, but the attacker blocks every shot, hauls him up, and drops him hard on the snooker table. Reaching for a weapon, he gets smacked again and pinned against a table while his opponent rains down punches. More goons roll in, but they trip the wire, setting off the bomb, blasting them away. The blast throws the bad guys off their game, giving the fighter a shot. He kicks low and cracks a bottle on the attacker's head. He fires a couple rounds, but when the clip runs dry, he switches to stabbing and lands a jab on the shoulder. The opponent's no quitter. He grabs him tight,